Hello Internet! In this video we are going to start the actual elevator effect that we're trying to build. In the previous video we worked on asynchronously loading different levels or different scenes in Unity, and what we want to have happen is you'd get into an elevator and actually move between those scenes without it appearing like anything is actually happening. So there's a seamless transition. You enter an elevator, you can move around in that elevator, and then when the doors open you're on a new scene. What we're going to be working on today is actually building out that elevator. Specifically, we're going to be looking at animating the door opening and closing. We're going to be using an animator and animation controller to do that. So I have already built the elevator. It's super simple. It's just a bunch of quads with some cubes for a door, and that should get us started. There's a bunch of things that, or choices, I guess, that we need to make along the journey of making this. You could just have the doors be your prefab that opens and closes, or you could have the entire elevator be animated. However you want to choose is going to work. You can design this however you want, and the size is going to matter because that size is going to need to be the same in every single scene that is a part of this. So I've made it 2 by 2 by 3. And so it's 3 units high and 2 wide and deep. And so what that means is that in each scene, there needs to be a place where we can fit a 2 by 2 object so that this thing actually sits in our scene without overlapping with the rest of the geometry. If there's geometry in this elevator position, it's going to load into the player or whatever would normally be there, and we don't want that. So basically this is a dead zone in all of our scenes. This is just a reserved spot. And so what I've done is I've created an elevator prefab. The idea here is the entire elevator can be animated. This gives us a little bit more freedom. We can actually animate things like the lights dimming and shaking and doing all sorts of other things without having to do a whole bunch of work. And I just found it easier. You can, again, do whatever you want. Choices have consequences, and this one has consequences as much as choosing just to do the door or whatever else you think is most appropriate. You will know better than I do. So what we need to do to get started is actually just select this and create an animator. There's a few different ways to do this. I guess we could go this way and just add an animator to this. This accepts an animation controller and then does a whole bunch of things. Unity's animation controllers are effectively just a really fancy state machine. You create a series of animations. These are your states, and then using a set of properties, you will animate and move between those states. There's a few settings here. The animation controller is actually that state machine that's going to be defined for this object. And then there's an avatar. We're not going to use one here, but that would be used if you were doing like a human based thing, so that you could swap this out with a different thing that had the same avatar and it would still work. A root motion is going to actually apply the motion. So if you have motion tracked walking, for example, and you have an actual character that moves forward when they're walking, you can apply root motion, which will actually make your character in Unity move forward during that animation. What that's going to do is actually effectively create a expected walking so that the steps actually match up exactly as they should. This is sort of a bunch of rounding stuff. So if you're trying to do really precise stuff, I've run into issues in the past. So if you try to do like an exact 90-degree rotation each time, it's not probably going to do what you think it's going to do. But it's a pretty cool and useful thing if you're looking for like realism. The other things we don't really care about, so we're just going to ignore. And that's pretty much it. We need an actual animation controller though, because we can't actually do anything with this until it's done. What the object you apply this to is what is going to be able to be animated. So if we move this down to the door, we're going to lose access to everything above that. So let's go create an animator controller, and we'll just call this our elevator animation. Sure. Naming's hard, but we'll make it up. And I just realized I have screwed up my Unity layout. There we go. This will be fine. Let's put that down there. Sure. Cool. So we're going to need an animator and an animation view for this. You could add those from the window thing just under animation. They're right here. And so this is really tiny, but you can see there's an entry and an exit point. This is where your thing is going to enter and exit from. What we can do is just create states here and start adding things. There's also the ability to add layers, so you can create multiple different sections of your animation and create parameters. So in this case, we are going to be adding a parameter for is the door open or closed. So just a Boolean there. But you can add whatever you want. For example, if you want to do a float, for example, that will allow you to handle, for example, forward and backward movement or horizontal movement in a nicer fashion. And Unity can actually apply some blending there. So if you're trying to blend between like a walking and running animation, you can actually apply a float to that and do a smooth interpolation between those two animations. So if you're somewhere in between, you will get a mix of both the walk and run animation. There's a whole bunch of fun things you can do with this, but we're not really diving too deep into this. What we're trying to focus on is more inorganic stuff, just machinery. So the easiest way I found to do this is to just start creating animations. So just go down here and click create animation. We are going to create elevator closed. So this is just our elevator closed state. You can see the animation window has elevator closed as the option here. And there's no ability to add a property. The reason is because it doesn't actually know what this is for. If we select an object here, again, still not going to work. What we need to do to be able to actually use this is move our elevator closed into our state and select our elevator. And now, what the heck? We actually need to assign our elevator animation to our controller here. And now we can start adding properties. And so these properties are going to be what is actually animated. So the things that you're going to animate in your scene. And the way this works is you apply keyframes, and then Unity is going to move between the values of those keyframes in order to create your animation. So elevator closed is going to just be closed. So we select the door and select the right and left doors and add a position to this. And so we can select this, and you'll see it's already selected the right door in the inspector over here. And so we can actually just change any of these positions. You can also change them individually by expanding this position and just animating one of those positions instead of all three. We also need the left door here. So we'll just add that quick. And there we go. This works for pretty much anything attached to objects. You can kind of animate anything you want. Materials are fair game. Transforms, scales, anything you want. It's pretty fun, so go for it. But we actually, one of the cool things we're going to do is we are not going to actually add any animation. Our keyframe is going to be exactly the same across the entire animation. And so the reason we're going to do that is we're actually going to use an exit transition in order to move the doors between one and another. So there's actually no animation going on here, because if we actually include an animation, we would need multiple states to do that. So this is going to be sort of the simplest thing. At the end of the video, I will show you a more complicated way to do this that you can expand on if you're looking to make this more complicated. But for now, we're just going to start with the basics and just get things working. So we already have a door that is closed. I'm just going to move that there. I'm running out of space, but you should hopefully get the idea. We have a closed door, and so these keyframes should be correct. Our door should be closed. And so what we want to do now is create a elevator open. So elevator open. And let's just drag that in too. And there we go. And so now select our elevator, select elevator open, and we are going to re-add those two transforms. So both of the positions for this, like this. There we go. And now we actually need to change these values. So what they are is negative 0.5 and 0.5. We need to change these to 1.5. So they move so that they're actually open. And this should work, I believe. Yeah, cool. And then this is going to be 1.5. And so if we play this animation, Why? What? Why is it closed? All right. This is the part where I say that I don't use animations very often because I like to do things procedurally, but it seemed like a good choice here. I'm not entirely sure what just happened. Okay. What? Why is this? All right. I'm pretty sure this is fine. I'm just going to leave it and we're going to pretend like everything is working normally. And then when it breaks later, I'll figure out what's going on. I think this is just a preview that is broken. Yeah. Elevator open is closed. Okay, elevator open. These aren't actually changed. So let's do 1.5 and negative 1.5 and then elevator closed. Those are fine. All right, cool. And if we change the state, this needs to change as well. So 1.5 and 1.5. There we go. Cool. All right. This should actually work now. I actually changed the values instead of just changing them in the inspector. Cool. Learning things. That's good. So what we need to do to actually make this work is add a parameter. Because right now, if we run this, what's going to happen is we are going to enter that elevator close state. There we go. And if I look at this animator, you should see the elevator close state is just stuck. So our elevator worked. We animated it closed, but now we're not doing anything. So we actually need to tell it to do something because otherwise we're just going to be stuck here forever. So the way we do that is parameters. I already talked about those. There are 4 floats, ints, bools, and triggers. The difference between or effectively what a trigger is a Boolean that is only true for one frame. And what that means is it's effectively like I clicked a button or did something else. You can use it for actions. I'm actually going to use a Boolean and not a trigger so that we can actually track the state. But triggers could be useful if you're trying to, say, react to a button press. That's sort of what they're meant for, I think. So let's do closed door. Sure. Or we'll do door closed. I think leading with the noun makes more sense. All right, cool. So door closed. And that's just a Boolean that we can use. The way this works is you create transitions. So we're going to create a transition between both of these states. So you can see the arrows are going both directions, which means that this state can go into this state and vice versa. You can make this as complicated as you want, and we'll be getting to that at the end. But this is how it all ends up working. There's a bunch of settings for these transitions. We are going to edit a few of them. So one of the things that you'll notice is there's an exit time. Exit time is going to define a specific time in the animation that it's okay to leave at. So if you have an exit time enabled, what's going to happen is there's going to be a delay in the transition until you hit that exit time. The exit time is a percentage between 0 and 1 of when in that animation to leave it. So if you have that enabled and you notice your animations are not transitioning really quickly, that's going to be what's going on. But this is where we're at right now. What we want to do to get started is just enable the conditions. So elevator closed, we want to transition to elevator open when door closed is equal to false. So when this is false, we're going to go to the elevator open. So the door is not closed, so it must be open. So we're going to elevator open. And then we need to add the opposite transition here. So when door closed is equal to true, move to the closed state. And so that is how these work. You can make these conditions as complicated as you want, depending on the parameters you have, and it all should work. Now, we should be able to run this and just start changing things, and hopefully it works. So there is our... Oh, it defaults to false. So it's off by default, so it automatically transitioned to the open state. So we're already further than we were. But you can actually just change this, and you'll notice that after a period of time, the door closes again. The reason that period of time exists is because we have an exit time enabled. If I were to go in here and turn those off using this Boolean up here, we should be able to just get a really fast reaction. So instead of it waiting after I click that button, it should immediately start closing. And so this is how you get a faster reaction. The reason that we have an animation is because Unity is actually interpolating between the two states during the transition, which means that the object is really kind of in between both of these states. And you can actually see what's going on in this transition diagram thing. So there's actually a defined transition duration that is going on. So in this case, it's a fourth of a second. And so the door is going to linearly interpolate over a fourth of a second from open to closed. This is not going to be good if you want like some smooth effects or you want to do some other effect as the door is closing. This is not really appropriate for that. But if you're just trying to move between two states and get a nice transition, this will do that for you automatically. So that is basically our door opening and closing. It works. So that is pretty much the basics. What we're going to do now is make this a little bit more complicated. So right now I mentioned everything is sort of linearly interpolated. So it moves from open to closed linearly. So the doors will not have any fancy animation. What we can do instead is create an elevator closing or opening state as well. So I'm just going to do this once just to kind of show what's going on. We're going to have an elevator opening animation. And what we're going to do is jump into our animator, add elevator opening, and delete that transition. And now instead of going from closed to open directly, we're going to go from closed to opening to open. And I'm going to add the condition here. So when door closed is false, it's going to go to the elevator opening. And then when that is completed, it's going to exit to the elevator open. I believe this should be fine. I forget how to do this exactly. But it should exit that animation and immediately go to the next one after that animation completes. So this animation will play and then it will enter the elevator open state. And then you can have a looping effect. Maybe while the doors are closed, the elevator plays some, I don't know, rickety music like it's moving and the lights flicker or something. You can do whatever you want just to kind of give it more life. But this is sort of a basic way to add the transition. We are going to make this a little cooler because we're actually going to add an animation here. Why can't I? What? Oh, there we go. All right. You have to actually select the game object or it's not going to work. Elevator opening. Let's add our two doors. Let's do transform position. And the left door, transform position. And let's make this, I guess, more interesting. Let's have 3 states. So this is the open state. We do not want it to be in the open state initially because, again, this is its opening state, which means that it needs to start closed and end open. So we need to start at this point like that, and it's going to animate open. So these other keyframes should be at 1.5 and 1.5. So we can do whatever we want in the middle here. And those two end keyframes should match everything else for us. And so let's slow this down. So at first it's going to go really slow. So we'll just say a negative 0.1. That's wrong. 0.55. So it's going to open just 1/20th of the way. And we'll do the same here. So 5.5. There we go. So there's that little gap, and then it should spring open. So it goes slow, and then it goes faster. There's actual like graphs that you can manipulate to actually do this better. So you can see the curves here. That's not useful. But we can zoom in here and change this if we want. So this is not linear. If you want to do something crazy, you can. So why not? What does this do? Yeah, sure. This is not useful in any way. There's no reason you'd want to do this. But here's a nice, fun curve. Just to kind of give you an example of something that could happen. Again, not intended to look good, just to be weird. But you can edit things as if they were an animation curve because that's all they are. So There we go. That is our animation, and everything should still work because we've done the transitions, the conditions. So it's now in the open state. And then if I go and close it, it will transition back and everything closes. And then if we do this, you can see it step into the elevator opening. And then after that's completed, transition to the elevator open state. And so it will just sit here because the condition is not met for it to exit this transition yet. You can loop these animations. So if you go into here, you can configure looping. And so if we want to do some animation inside of them, that will work. You can just enable looping. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We have written zero code in this entire video. And we have a working opening and closing door. And I think that's pretty cool. So hopefully this is helpful and can help you in your projects. We're going to continue this and hopefully start looking into 3-scene loading. So we'll have the elevator and player in one scene, and then 2 different scenes that we'll be able to transition in and out of. That's sort of the next step here. So that will be in a upcoming video. I don't know when, but hopefully this is a fun sort of building thing. I'm still learning animators and animations. I tinker with them every so often, but I kind of use them and then don't for a few months and then come back to them and forget everything. So yeah, it's still picking things back up. But if you have suggestions on what we could do next, leave those in the comments. And if you're looking for help or want to share some of the cool things you're building, come join our Discord. There's a link in the description. You can join that and share in the showcase or ask for help in the help and mentoring section. And we can help you out there. But yeah, that's it for now. So until next time, see you, Internet.